this is the smarter way of spending that money that the city gave us for the grant writer. So if anyone has any questions.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
Item 3, Councilwoman Williams Hart, for discussion for possible action, approval of Resolution 2023-03 in support of Nevada Senate Bill 186 regarding transfer of State of Nevada buildings at the Nevada Northern Railway National Historic Landmark to the City of Ely and the Nevada Northern Railway Foundation.
Mr. Bassett, could you please give some more information on this?
I would be happy to. Thank you. Mark Bassett, President of the Nevada Northern Railway Foundation. The Nevada Northern Railway National Historic Landmark consists of 56 acres with 60 buildings and structures on the entire complex. The state of Nevada owns 2 of those buildings. Those buildings are the East Ely Depot building, also known as the Passenger Depot, and the Freight Depot. And Senate Bill 186 would transfer those 2 buildings back to the City of Ely and the Foundation. These 2 buildings were given to the state of Nevada in 1990 for no consideration. And we had a similar bill in the 2021 session of the Nevada State Legislature, and that was our first attempt at transferring those buildings. The big difference between 2021 and 2023 is this time we will not be incorporating the East Ely Railroad Depot Museum, which is a state of Nevada museum. That remains with the state of Nevada, and it would remain in its current location on the 2nd floor of the depot. Additionally, this bill would allow the museum, the state museum, to stay on the 2nd floor rent-free and cost-free for 99 years. In other words, the foundation would cover all the costs of the buildings and everything else. 34 years ago, when the railroad was given to the community, involving the state of Nevada seemed to be a sensible plan. The reality is that the foundation has been able to raise and invest $37,723 in the landmark. During the same amount of time, the state of Nevada has only invested $4.2 million. Furthermore, the foundation currently has over $11 million in active grants being invested in the complex. After the complex was gifted to the City of Ely and the foundation, because Kennecott had just closed, we reached out to the state of Nevada and entered into intense discussions, because at that time we thought, who had deeper pockets, the state of Nevada or a brand new nonprofit? We came up with a plan, and the plan was that the complex would be given to the state of Nevada, and the City of Ely could get out of the railroad business, and the foundation would operate the trains for the state of Nevada. The first step in this plan was in 1989, when the state legislature approved a bill accepting the East Ely Railroad Depot and the Freight Depot. But in the bill and in the deeds is a clause that the foundation and the city retain the right to use the buildings forever, however we would like, for any business activities of the foundation. So the state did not receive the buildings 100%. There is our reserved rights in those deeds. And at that time, we recognized that it was going to, the complex was going to need millions of dollars. And so at that time, the smart bet was do the state of Nevada. Unfortunately, the answer came surprisingly quick on which entity had the staying power. 4 short years after accepting the 2 buildings, and only 1 year after the State Museum opened, on January 12, 1993, the state of Nevada froze further negotiations on accepting parts of the railroad. The reason, quote, budgets are uncertain at this time due to past revenue shortfalls, end of quote. In other words, after receiving just the 2 buildings, the state of Nevada did not have the money to proceed any further. No further transfers of the railroad to the state was made, and everything stopped. Funding has been a continuing problem for the East Ely Railroad Depot Museum from the very beginning, and it continues to this very day. In addition to the state refusing any additional parts of the railroad in 1993, the State Museum was threatened with closure in 2009 and 2011. And we made USA Today in 2008, Railroad Museum in Ely, Nevada to close. Because most people don't realize there's two museums here. And that damaged the foundation. We lost grants, we lost memberships, we lost ridership. It was very distressing for us. I went to the state museum director at the time and I said, please, now in 2010, the museum's on the chopping block again, and I said, please, 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 if you're going to send out a press release saying the Railroad Museum's going to close, please coordinate with me so we can say we're remaining open. I'll do that. Great. The governor's office sends out a memo that says Railroad Museum in Ely to close. It's deja vu all over again. And the problem with the two buildings and the state of Nevada, currently in the governor's budget, there are two capital improvement projects for the East Ely Depot, and it comes to about $9 million. But there were two other capital improvement projects that were not put into the governor's budget. And one of those that was not funded was an HVAC system for the depot building. I have a picture of the thermometer on the ground floor of the depot where the gift shop is, and the temperature is 53 degrees. And I have people working there. So, and the other thing is too, the state has historic documents stored in the depot building, and the cooling system is opening the windows, and there's no control of the humidity or anything else, and all the windows on the floor, on the building leak. So, number one, the $9 million that's currently in the budget, there's absolutely no guarantee that will be funded. In fact, State Museums has over $60 million worth of needs. And so the $9 million for this building here is in that $60 million lump sum that they need. The other thing is too, and this is why this building is so important, because it would bring the two buildings under local control. The depot building is literally sitting on a pile of rocks for the foundation. And after 16 years, guess what? It's failing. And the Division of Museums is well aware of the issue, but unbelievably, repairing the foundation is not their top priority. Over the course of the past 2 years, they spent $1 million on developing plans. I exaggerate, only $800,000 on developing plans for the freight depot, whereas that money could have been invested in the foundation of the depot. And during his presentation to Nevada State Public Works Board, Myron Freeman, the administrator of the Nevada Division of Museums, said, and I quote, "But most of all, we're just afraid of collapse." Isn't that a great place to work? Yet they have the freight depot project as a higher priority than the depot project. So when Senate Bill 186 passes, the community will not be losing a museum. The bill transfers the buildings to the city and the foundation, but the state's East Ely Railroad Depot Museum will remain on the second floor of the passenger depot, rented and utility free for 99 years. And not only that, but the $9.7 million that's in the governor's budget can go towards the $60 million that's needed in other state museums. And actually, that would reduce the amount of money needed by state museums by 16%. That's a nice chunk of change. The other thing is too, when the foundation rehabs one of our buildings, we follow the gold standard. And the gold standard is the Secretary of Interior's treatment for historic properties. And all of our plans are reviewed by the State Historic Preservation Office. We follow this to the letter. State Public Works gives it lip service. And the other thing is too, the state's inaction on the freight depot is actually financially harming the foundation now. The number one question that we get is, where's the museum? People come to the complex and they expect to go into a building rather than essentially an open building. And they go, where's the museum? Well, you're standing in the middle of it. Our vision is to take the freight depot and actually build a building inside of the existing building that has modern HVAC, alarm, fire suppression, the whole ball of wax. And our goal is to become a Smithsonian affiliate museum. And if we become a Smithsonian affiliate museum, then we can use all of the Smithsonian branding. And so people that are traveling go, oh my gosh, there's a Smithsonian Museum in Ely, Nevada. That will bring us additional tourism here, and which actually not only benefits the foundation, but benefits the city too, because we both receive room tax revenue. When we started receiving room tax revenue 20 years ago, it was less than $100,000 a year. Now it's over $300,000, almost $400,000 a year. And one last thing, earlier this week I was in Carson City and I was meeting with Nevada State Senator Edgar Flores, Myron Freeman, the administrator, Nevada Division of Museums. And during that meeting, Myron twice said what a fabulous job the foundation has done out here. We have done a fabulous job, according to Myron. Well, the passage of Senate Bill 186 will allow the foundation to continue its fabulous work here. And so, obviously, we would request that you pass the resolution this evening. Does anyone have any questions?
On the freight barn, when people have their wedding reception and so forth, who collected, was there a rent charge on that building?
There is a rent charge, and that's collected by the state of Nevada.
Okay, so if we turn the freight barn into this Smithsonian situation, would that building still have a space for you to work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. That, and museums are always trying to raise money, including the Smithsonian. And so they do have event spaces in their museum just for weddings, parties, reunions, what have you. And we would continue that tradition.
It would be nice to have heaters and air conditioning. I've been there both times.
Exactly.
That was the same night.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Mr.
Mr. Stenko would like to make a comment to.
Mr. Stanko would like to make a comment.
Yeah, to address
Okay.
council.
Mr. Stanko?
Thanks, Mayor. I don't have any comment unless there's any questions about the legal relationship between the city and the foundation, but I don't have anything to add comment-wise at this time.
Thank you, Chris. I don't think there is.
I think it was an interesting note that Sam mentioned, you didn't know there was a museum there.
I just kind of thought it was all part of the rail yard. I didn't know there was a state portion that was owned by them, so.
Well,
I don't know if that's just me or if that's other people in Ely, but that's just kind of what I assumed.
that is actually, we have never really pushed that there's two museums because, quite frankly, the public doesn't care. The public is coming to visit the railroad. And actually, if you go to our social media, when our ratings, when it's the 1-star ratings, it's because the State Museum was closed and they blamed us for that. And so I tried to reply to that. But yeah, there are the two museums there, but you know, we're like 99.9% of the complex.
Any other questions for Mr. Bassett or Mr. Stanko?
Does this resolution need to be
I'm happy to do it, but we don't typically.
I'm not aware that it has to be, so.
Would you prefer that I do?
I just think it might be nice.
Okay. After all of those utility waivers, I'm going to read it.
Thank you, sir.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Ely, Nevada, supporting the passage of Nevada Senate Bill 186 regarding transfer of State of Nevada buildings at the Nevada Northern Railway National Historic Landmark. Whereas NRS 266.0105 empowers the Ely City Council to pass resolutions necessary or proper for the municipal government and the management of the affairs of the City of Ely, Nevada, the city, for execution of all powers vested in the city. And whereas the City Council historically promotes legislative actions consistent with the goals and functions of the city. And whereas the Nevada Northern Railway Foundation, Inc., the foundation, a Nevada nonprofit corporation tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, is the successor in interest to White Pine Historical Railroad Foundation, Inc., the WPHRF. And whereas in 1990, the city and the WPHRF transferred two buildings, commonly referred to as the East Ely Depot or Passenger Depot and the Freight Depot or Freight Barn, buildings to the state of Nevada with the goal of developing the Nevada Northern Railway Railroad Complex in Ely, Nevada into a major tourist complex. And whereas the deeds in transferring the two buildings to the state of Nevada reserved a broad and unlimited right to use the two buildings for the benefit of the foundation, which was consistent with the foundation's rights in the 1985 deed from the original Nevada Northern Railway Company, which was a subsidiary of Kennecott Corporation, conveying the buildings. And whereas today the state of Nevada only operates the East Ely Depot Museum out of the second floor of the East Ely Depot building, and whereas the foundation operates the vast majority of the Nevada Northern Railway National Historic Landmark Complex, consisting of 56 acres, 61 buildings and structures, approximately 30 miles of railroad track, 4 steam locomotives, 11 diesel locomotives, and over 100 antique railroad cars, with the oldest dating to September 1872. Whereas the foundation advertises, markets, and promotes the entire complex using the foundation's budget. Whereas the foundation staff reads tourists, explains what there is to see and do, collects admissions, and provides a walking tour map that highlights what a tourist should see, including the State Museum on the second floor. And whereas the foundation's operations and activities are vital to the local economy of Nevada. Whereas to maximize the potential of the Nevada Northern Railway National Historic Landmark for the benefit of the city's local economy, the Nevada Legislature has proposed Senate Bill 186 in the 82nd Legislature, 2023, which provides for the transfer of both the East Ely Depot and the Freight Depot building back to the original owners and the City of Ely and the foundation, while allowing the state of Nevada's East Ely Railroad Depot Museum to remain in its existing location on the second floor of the East Ely Depot rent-free. And whereas the city and the foundation have an extensive relationship, as 2 city council members are also members of the foundation's board of directors pursuant to the foundation's articles of incorporation and bylaws, and the city's and the foundation's relationship with respect to several co-owned properties in and around the Nevada Northern Railway National Historic Landmark is governed by a joint development agreement between the parties. And whereas the state of the Nevada taxpayers millions of dollars in necessary capital improvements and critical repairs and thousands of dollars per annum in operating costs, the Nevada Legislature has proposed to transfer both the East Ely Depot and the Freight Depot buildings back to the original owners, the city and the foundation, via Senate Bill 186. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council finds it in the public interest to support the Nevada Legislature's proposed plan to transfer the East Ely Depot and the Freight Depot buildings to the City of Ely and the Nevada Northern Railway Foundation from the state of Nevada to promote local control, and therefore the City Council supports the passage of Senate Bill 186, and resolve further that the City Council hereby authorizes the mayor or a City Council designee of the mayor to make statements, write letters, and take any other action necessary or appropriate to support legislative actions consistent with this resolution.
Very good.
I missed on that.
Yeah, which part would you like me to cover here? If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion from Councilman Albert, is there a second? Second from Councilwoman Williams. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before.
We'll move on to item 11, public comment. Please state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm requesting a copy of the permit that the City Hall had to obtain to dig into the intersection of Altman and Ely Avenue to conduct the water line and sewer line repair on March 5th. Mr. Mayor, I'm requesting a copy of the letter, memo, or any other correspondence communicated to City Clerk Jennifer Lee to correct a encroachment of a fence on the city right-of-way, enforcing pedestrians and handicap or others onto a busy road and traffic. That issue has been up quite some time, and I'm not seeing any correction. Mr. Mayor, I want to remind you that I reported at 728 Avenue G, a property of mine, the curb and gutter is iced over. The drainage is coming from the south end. Now it's going over the sidewalk, frozen over, into the yard, into the parking lot. I'm concerned about the liability you're putting me into. We need to address that first chance we can. This is the third time I've brought this issue up. Mr. Mayor, in regards to Jennifer Lee, I've showed you pictures in the past. That needs to be corrected. I also have a concern in regards to Avenue K, Great Basin Boulevard, and Avenue M in Great Basin. When the state did that project, they were supposed to put in handicap access, curb gutter, sidewalk, not compliant. I want to remind you also, I put in the sidewalk on 710 Avenue G, according to what the city told me, follow the state guidelines, and you people sued me. And yet you're supposed to let me just look the other way for these other projects. We have rules and regulations that concern everybody, or they pertain to no one, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, once again, I'm requesting a complete list of properties and individuals that the city has permitted and allowed to park RVs on the city lots and city streets while living in them. I'm a member of the planning commission now, and in years past, I attended on a regular basis. I'm not seeing one application. Someone's not collecting the proper fees. Mr. Mayor, I have a major concern regarding the drainage coming down from the Bath property located on the west side of the railroad tracks. On 7th Street, the water runs off, enters the drain catch basin under the railroad culvert on 7th Street. It's causing tremendous erosion on my property. On one alleyway, the gouges are anywhere from 6 inches to a foot. I got one estimate from a contractor in order to remedy the situation, worth $24,500. I'm waiting for a couple other bids. I'll be presenting them to you. City ordinance
Thank you, Mr. Judge.
specifically states you cannot drain on another person's property, Mr. Mayor. Is that the ordinance?
Is there any other public comments?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name is Roger Bowers. I live at 1305 Bell Avenue. I recently purchased a trailer over on Avenue O, and we discovered a plumbing problem that we had to fix. So I called the city, and this morning they came out. We had to dig some snow and ice out of the way, but the city came over and turned the water off at the street. We got the problem fixed, and I called the city back early this afternoon saying, please come back and turn the water back on. Well, I don't move as fast as I used to. I drove back over to the property. We waited and waited. Nobody showed up, so I called the city back again and said, you know, we're still waiting. Well, no, they've already been there. So all I want to say is thank you very much to the water department for moving so quickly and so stealthily that I didn't even know they came. We got the problem fixed, and it was great working with those people. So my thanks to the city water department.
Thank you. They're like ninjas. Any other public comment? Hearing and seeing none, I will move on to item 12 and entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion from Councilor Hopper, second from Councilwoman Shepherd. Do I have any dissent there? All in favor?
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chachis reporting.